The street corner in Harlem was quiet until the gunshot shattered the night. Muhammad Ali was walking home from dinner when he heard the sound that changed everything. A white police officer had just shot an unarmed black teenager, and the mob wanted blood. Everyone expected Ali to walk away or join in. But what happened next would prove that real courage means fighting for what's right, even when the whole world wants you to choose wrong. Before we dive into this incredible story of the greatest facing an impossible choice, let me know in the comments where you're watching from today. If you believe in justice over revenge, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that prove true heroism means doing what's right even when it costs you everything. Now, let's get into what really happened on that Harlem street corner in 1972 when Muhammad Ali did the unthinkable. It was a humid August night in 1972 when Muhammad Ali walked down 125th Street in Harlem after dinner at Sylvia's restaurant. The champ was 30 years old, recently returned to boxing after his 3-year exile. He wore a simple dark shirt and slacks, just another face in the community he loved. In Harlem, he wasn't the greatest. He was just Muhammad, a brother who understood struggle. Then came the sound that stopped everything. A single gunshot, sharp and unmistakable. Ali ran toward it. A crowd was forming on the corner of 125th and Lenox. In the center lay a young black man, maybe 17, blood spreading across his white t-shirt. He was conscious, crying, pressing his hand against the shoulder wound. Standing over him, service revolver still drawn, was a white police officer. Officer Dennis Murphy, 28 years old, 3 years on the force, his hands shaking badly. He had a weapon, Murphy shouted, voice cracking with panic. "There ain't no weapon," a woman screamed. "That's my nephew Marcus. He was just walking home from work." Ali pushed through and knelt beside the teenager. "What's your name, young brother?" "Marcus," the kid gasped through tears. "Marcus Johnson. I didn't do nothing, Mr. Ali. I swear. I was walking home, and he stopped me for ID, and I reached for my wallet and got scared when he grabbed me and pulled away. And then he shot me. I didn't have no gun. I didn't do nothing wrong." Ali scanned the scene. No weapon visible. Just a scared teenager bleeding and a panicked cop who'd made a terrible mistake. The crowd swelled, 50 people, then 100. The mood shifted from shock to rage. "Murderer, killer pig, another one of our children shot down." Murphy backed against the wall, gun shaking. He was trapped, surrounded, and knew how this usually ended. "Somebody call an ambulance," Ali shouted, applying pressure to Marcus's wound. But the crowd wanted the cop. "Let's get him," a man's voice called. "Show him what happens when you kill our children. Make him pay right now." The mob pressed closer. Murphy raised his gun shakily, finger off the trigger. He'd made one terrible mistake and couldn't make another. "Stay back," Murphy shouted, but his voice had no authority. Ali stood up slowly, positioning himself between the officer and the crowd. Muhammad Ali, the man who'd refused to fight in Vietnam, who'd been stripped of his championship for standing against the system, was now standing between a white cop and black rage. "Move aside, Ali," someone shouted. "It concerns what kind of people we want to be," Ali replied, steel in his voice. "If we beat this man to death, we become everything they say we are." The crowd hesitated. Sirens wailed in the distance. "That cop just shot an unarmed kid," a woman yelled. "You gonna defend that?" "I'm not defending what he did. I'm defending what we are. That boy deserves justice. Real justice. In courtrooms, not lynch mobs. There ain't no justice in courtrooms," a man shouted. "You know that. They stripped your championship." Ali nodded slowly. "The system is broken. The system is racist. I know. But when they tried to break me, I didn't become like them. I stood on principle, because the moment we abandon justice for revenge, we lose everything we've been fighting for. A young man pushed to the front, Jerome Williams. His brother had been killed by police 2 years earlier. My brother didn't get a trial, Jerome said, shaking with rage. 6 bullets in his back while running away. Unarmed. Where was justice for him, Ali? Ali walked toward Jerome until they were face to face. What was your brother's name? Marcus, Jerome said, tears streaming. Same as that boy on the ground. He was 22, worked at the post office, saving for college, and they shot him like an animal. I'm sorry, Ali said quietly. I'm sorry the system failed him. That's a weight you'll carry forever. But killing this cop won't bring Marcus back. It won't fix anything. It'll just create more death, more grief. Jerome's anger cracked, revealing raw grief underneath. So why should this cop live when my brother's dead? Because killing him won't heal your pain, Ali said firmly. It won't bring Marcus back. Revenge and justice aren't the same thing. Ali turned to face the entire crowd, his voice rising with passionate intensity. Listen to me, all of you. I know what it's like to want revenge. When they stripped my title, I wanted to fight back. But you know what I learned? Revenge doesn't heal. It creates a cycle that never ends. That boy there deserves justice. Real justice. Where this officer stands before a judge and answers for what he did. But justice and revenge aren't the same thing. The crowd was listening now, the mob energy dissipating into uncertainty. Behind Ali, Murphy was crying. I thought he had a gun, I swear. I thought I saw a weapon. I panicked and his voice broke. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Sorry, don't bring back the dead, someone shouted, but with less conviction. Ali walked over to Murphy and took the gun from his trembling hand. He cleared it and handed it back empty. You made a mistake, Ali said quietly. A terrible mistake that hurt an innocent person. But I'm not gonna let you die for it tonight. You're going to face real justice in a courtroom. Murphy collapsed against the wall, sobbing. Ali turned back to the crowd. Here's what's gonna happen. Marcus goes to the hospital. Some of us go with him to make sure he's treated right. This officer gets arrested and charged. We make sure the media knows. We fight for justice the right way, with lawyers, cameras, pressure, truth, not with fists and anger. Why should we trust the system? Someone called. Because we're gonna make it work, Ali replied with conviction. We'll be there every day of the trial. We'll organize. We'll protest. We'll demand accountability. And when we win, and we will win, nobody can say we were just a mob. They'll say we were citizens demanding justice. The sirens grew louder. Jerome Williams stepped forward and put his hand on Ali's shoulder. All right, champ. We'll do it your way. But you better be there with us every single day. I will be, Ali promised. Every day. The crowd dispersed as police arrived. Paramedics rushed to Marcus. Ali stayed by his side, holding his hand. Am I gonna die, Mr. Ali? Marcus whispered. No, young brother. You're gonna live. You're gonna testify. And people are gonna listen. As they loaded Marcus into the ambulance, officers arrested Murphy. But something was different. Maybe because Ali was watching. Maybe because cameras had appeared. They arrested him properly, without incident. Ali stood exhausted as the scene cleared. An elderly woman approached him slowly. You did right tonight, Muhammad, she said quietly. My grandson got killed by police 3 years ago. Nobody was punished. I wanted revenge so bad it ate me up inside. But you're right. Revenge don't heal nothing. It just makes the wound deeper. Ali hugged her gently. I'm sorry for your loss, mother. I'm sorry for all our losses. As he walked away, Ali knew some people would never forgive him for saving that cop's life. They'd say he chose the system over his people. But Ali understood something deeper. The moment you abandon principle for emotion, you lose the moral authority that makes your fight meaningful. If that mob had beaten Murphy to death, the story wouldn't have been about an unarmed teenager being shot. It would have been about violent mob in Harlem, and Marcus Johnson would have been forgotten. 3 months later, Officer Dennis Murphy stood trial for assault with a deadly weapon and reckless endangerment. Muhammad Ali was in the courtroom every single day, sitting in the front row with Jerome Williams and Marcus Johnson's family. The media coverage was extensive. The case became a national conversation about police accountability and the value of black lives. Murphy was convicted. He served 3 years in prison and lost his badge forever. Marcus Johnson survived his wound, graduated college with honors, and became a civil rights attorney. Jerome Williams started an organization dedicated to police reform in his brother's name. And Muhammad Ali proved that sometimes the hardest fight is the one where you choose not to throw a punch. Years later, in an interview, Ali was asked about that night. "People ask me if I regret it," he said. "If I wish I'd just walked away and let that mob do what mobs do. And I tell them, no, because that night wasn't about that cop. It was about us, about who we are when we're tested, about what we stand for when it would be easier to stand for nothing. Justice isn't about feeling good, it's about being right. And that night, we were right." Officer Murphy, after his release from prison, spent the rest of his life working with police reform organizations. He told his story at conferences and training sessions, admitting his failure, advocating for change. He never forgot the night Muhammad Ali saved his life and taught him that mercy isn't weakness, it's the hardest form of strength. And on that humid August night in Harlem, Muhammad Ali proved once again why he truly was the greatest. Not because he could float like a butterfly and sting like a bee, not because he won championships or broke records, but because when the world wanted blood, he chose justice. When everyone expected revenge, he demanded accountability. When it would have been easier to walk away or join in, he stood between violence and a man who didn't deserve protection, but desperately needed it. Because that's what heroes do. They don't just fight the battles everyone expects. They fight for principles, even when it costs them popularity. They stand for what's right, even when wrong would feel so much better. They prove that real courage isn't about violence, it's about restraint. Real strength isn't about revenge, it's about justice. Real greatness isn't measured in victories alone, but in the moments when you choose mercy over hatred, principle over emotion, and justice over revenge. Muhammad Ali faced many opponents in the ring: Sonny Liston, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, and he defeated them all with speed and skill and strategy. But that night in Harlem, he faced his hardest opponent, the collective rage of people who'd been hurt too many times, who'd been denied justice too often, who'd watched their children die with no consequences for the killers. And he defeated that rage, not with his fists, but with his words, not with violence, but with vision, not with revenge, but with a better path forward. That night, standing on a blood-stained sidewalk, between an angry mob and a terrified cop, Muhammad Ali was the greatest he'd ever been, because he proved that true strength isn't about how hard you can hit, it's about how much you can endure while still holding on to your principles. It's about choosing the hard right over the easy wrong. It's about being the person you want the world to become. And that's why, decades later, people still tell the story of the night Muhammad Ali saved a cop's life in Harlem, not because it was easy, not because everyone agreed with him, not because it felt good in the moment, but because it was right. And being right, standing for justice even when it costs you everything, that's what makes you truly great.